Good to see you again.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Jerry Romero. I'm the vice chair, different role. I'm the vice chair for the Texas Emergency Services Retirement System. Here with me today is Jessica Gallagher, who is our executive director, Scott Miller, who is the director of compliance and marketing, and one of our professional partners, Mark Finlaw. With that, I will respect your time and ask Jessica to go ahead and go into her presentation.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My presentation will be speaking to the materials you should have in your packet. TESRS is the only statewide public retirement system for volunteer, paid, and part-period emergency personnel. The agency is responsible for administration of management of 138 million defined benefit pension funds for over 9,000 participants in 257 municipalities and emergency services districts. TESRS was created for communities to recognize, protect, and financially reward first responders and emergency services personnel for years of service. In 2019, the 86th legislature allowed for the system to cover paid, part-paid personnel. Next slide, 3. This is a summary snapshot of your individual counties. Currently, there are 11 volunteer fire departments representing 335 active volunteers and 247 volunteers receiving benefits within this committee. Slide 4, department recruiting and site visits. Our current performance measure requires 48 site visits per year. TESRS has visited 54 departments, which exceeds its required performance by 11%. Departments visited in fiscal year 24, and also in 2025, 14 new departments with an active members totaling 170. The agency's performance for new department recruits is 2 every 3 years. This fiscal year alone, we've added 4 departments. These 4 departments are located in the Texas Panhandle. With that, I pass the torch over to Scott Miller to provide a high-level overview of his experience in the Texas Fire.
Good afternoon. Scott Miller, Texas Emergency Service Retirement System Director of Compliance and Marketing. Had the opportunity last year to attend the wildfire hearings up here in the what happened up in the Panhandle. And the testimony started off very positive, as far as, getting recruitment of our volunteers and the materials. It quickly went off to let's make sure that the departments have the materials and the equipment to perform their duties. It looks like maybe we lost a little bit of focus about who will be handling this great new equipment, which is duly deserved, the members of the volunteers. And so that's where we have started, stepping out and recruiting and educating the departments as far as volunteer departments throughout the state of Texas. And we've been successful with a couple of counties in the Panhandle, Randall County and Armstrong County, working with their county judges. They have recently signed the contract to include every volunteer fire department throughout the state. With that being said, you will see some of our requests down here talk about recruiting and retention. Along with that, that's part of our stumbling block right now, is educating everybody about this program. At the end of the day, let's please keep in mind, these are volunteers. That's the majority of our members. And at the end of the day, at the end of the call, the big difference between a volunteer firefighter and a paid firefighter, the paid firefighter is going back to the department. The volunteer generally is going back to their full-time job. So that's why we believe that this is a great tool for retention and recruiting new members of our volunteer fire department. Thank you.
Page 5, TESRS funding policy. The state contributes up to maximum 1/3 of all total contributions by the local governing body in a particular year. Part 1 contributions by the local governing body. Also, contributions for the participating departments are made by local governing entities. The minimum contribution rate is $36, and the highest contribution rate is $490 per member per month. We have an option for a Part 2 contribution by the governing entity as needed for actuarial soundness. The Part 2 was established by Tezer's board to help with the unfunded accrued liability. Part 2 shall not exceed 15% of the Part 1 contribution. Tezer's only accepts contributions from the local governing entity and general appropriations. Members themselves do not contribute to the fund. Next slide, page 6, is just a summary of our legislative appropriations request, including base and exceptional items. Page 7 is a breakdown of our legislative appropriations request, which we have 6 request options. The first one is we're requesting $447,000, and this is to help backfill 2 positions of our agency. Our agency is currently running off of 8 full-time employees. We have allotted 10. We're asking for the fill of those salaries, in addition to adjusting current employees' salaries to staying competitive with current salary pages. Sectional item number 2, we're requesting $947,000. This is for the biennium to migrate servers into the Texas Data Center program. Exceptional item number 3, we're asking for $315,000 to fill 2 FTEs and additional FTEs due to our increase in membership, provide customer service as a benefits specialist and program specialist. Page 4, we're asking for $86,000 for the biennium to add a full-time receptionist to help with customer service and phone calls coming in. Item number 5, we're asking for $41,000. That's to increase the salary of the executive director to stay competitive in the market. An additional, number 6, we're asking for $7.2 million request for the biennium, that the state statute be changed from a maximum 1/3 contribution rate to use an actually determined contribution rate. Page 8 of your presentation is a summary of our actual evaluation summary. Primary reasons for actual conditions is the adverse 2022 investments experience, and the investment rate of assumption returns was lowered from 7.5 to 7.25%. Next slide. Page 9 is a summary of the fund balance. In 2007, we were at $51 million. In 2024, we are now $138 million. Annual rate of return, bring your attention down to 2022, which we had a negative of 12%. This is due to COVID. And now in 2024, we are up 12%. Tezer's program is governed by 9 trustees of the state board, which are staggered in 6-year terms. Five of the 9 members must be active members in the system, and 1 must represent EMS personnel. 3 members have experiences in the last areas of financing, securities, investments, and pension administration, and the final member must be a retiree of the system. Of the local departments coming into Tezer's, each of our 257 departments has its own 6-member local board that's responsible for hearing and deciding on claims, death, and disability, acting local administrations of the pension system, and comply with open meetings. This is where we need assistance for retention and recruitment, for we can provide that education to the new members coming in. Slide 12 is just a summary of our Tezer's membership throughout the years. An active member in the department. For beneficiaries or surviving spouse, we provide death benefits for on-duty, off-duty, on-duty disability, and tuition exemption. If a member expires on duty, the member's beneficiary is entitled to a lump sum benefit of $100,000 plus their monthly annuity. An off-duty death benefit, if a member expires off-duty, the member's beneficiary is entitled to the sum of the lump sum benefit or contributions paid for the member's behalf. On-duty disability as well is if a member is injured on duty, they get $400 a month minimum. Tuition exemption, a member is eligible to receive tuition exemption benefits for fire science courses. An active member is eligible for retirement when they attain the age of 55. They can retire with 10 years of service at 50% or 100% of vesting at 15 years. Every year after that, a member who serves 15 years or more receives 6.2% per year served. Currently, we've had a volunteer firefighter serve for 40 years. TESRS provides a mechanism for communities to support paid volunteer and part-paid emergency services. TESRS membership not only retains a member, it also serves as an incentive to recruit new members. This concludes my presentations. Thank you for this opportunity, and I welcome any questions you may have.
Representative Slauson.
Thank you so much. Can we back up to page 8 under the actuarial evaluation summary? And under the list of primary reasons for the change, can you explain to me the third one there, the demographic experience? What you mean by that?
Absolutely. I will pass that down to Mark Finlaw, our actuary.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, members. My name is Mark Finlaw, and I'm with Rudd & Wisdom Consulting Actuaries, and our firm provides the actuarial services for the system. The demographic experience is compared to the demographic assumptions, just like the investment experience is compared to the investment assumption. And when the volunteers don't follow our assumptions, like if they're retiring sooner than we're projecting with our assumptions, or not as many of them are terminating and forfeiting their benefit before they become vested, that can add liabilities. So that some years or some biennial actuarial evaluations, there's a gain. This year there was a loss. So there's also some other things that come into it, but it's mainly those retirement and termination experience.
Do you have a percentage associated with that? The way you've broken out here, the investment return assumption was lowered. Is there a percentage or number that you can put to the demographic experience that
Yes, ma'am.
correlates?
Yes, ma'am. We do identify, measure that. So the investment loss was $9 million. The demographic experience was $4 million, and then changing the investment return assumption added $6 million.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions, members? I do have one question. On page, I should have. I don't even know. Hold on. 7, you talk about the need for $7,200,000 for actuarial soundness. The consequences of us not attending to this now in this biennium would mean what in future bienniums?
We would have to cut benefits for volunteer fire departments and restructure our plan.
We would have to look at limiting the membership into the organization. Members don't pay a penny. So it's a participating jurisdiction that provides benefits for them, and then the contribution from the state. It's a double-edged sword. You add more members, you add more benefits, so you're still going to be running in a negative. I think the biggest situation here for us has been that we are trying to fit a size 9 foot into a size 5 shoe. We get money from the state, but it hasn't kept up with the economic conditions that we have to realize are out there, like COVID. COVID, cost us a lot of money, so we had to rebuild, and it wasn't just us. A lot of pension funds went through the same process. So we just need to find a formula that's actually going to help us going forward on a biennium basis, so that we don't have to keep coming back for another $3 million, another $4 million, another $5 million. It'll be set into where the actuarially determined contribution will be done by an actuary, and that will be what the number we're looking for the next 2 years. It could go up, it could go down. Right now, where we're at, I'm assuming that number will continue to kind of inch forward at a much higher rate, but during good economic times, it may come down.
I'd love for y'all to come by my office to have the conversation about this.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Oh, Representative Lopez.
Thank you, ma'am. I do have a couple of questions for you. How will this type of funding request impact the overall state budget? And what are the potential long-term cost savings for Texas?
I'll take that question, Ms. Lopez. Thank you. The increase in the dollars for funding is $4.62 million for the next biennium. And as a percent of the state's overall budget, it would be very small, but it would be very significant to the system for the system's expected funding progress and long-term viability. It's a much better approach to funding with an actuarially determined contribution rate if we can get this bill introduced and passed than the current state law, which has a maximum that limits the state contribution. So it's a $4.6 million increase in the funding.
And how does this type of funding compare to other similar systems in terms of funding ratios and long-term viability?
Well, the system's funded ratio is comparable to ERS and TRS over the last 10 years. There have been 6 biennial actuarial evaluations, and the funded ratio has ranged from 76% to 84%. And the actual viability of the system has been somewhat more stable in the last 10 to 15 years than ERS and TRS because there hasn't yet been a need for changes in the system's retirement eligibility or benefit formulas, a reduction in benefit formulas for future hires, or increases in the state contribution, as has been done for ERS and TRS. However, the more highly funded a system becomes, the more sensitive it is to investment experience. It's a double-edged sword. When you have good investment experience, it magnifies it. When you have adverse investment experience, it magnifies it. So there was very adverse investment experience in the 22 fiscal year that significantly set back the system.
And do you have any safeguards in place that will ensure that the system will remain solvent?
Well, the bill that we hope will be introduced will have an actuarially determined contribution approach that we think will be a very good long-term solution. We use a conservative level dollar amortization, so the expectation is that from biennium to biennium, it would go up and down with investment experience, but would not increase as with inflation. So we think it would be fairly stable. The bill is going to have a cap in it to limit the maximum state contribution in appropriation in a biennium. So we think that will be agreeable, hopefully, to the legislature as well.
And if I could add, Representative Lopez, if you look at, again, go back to slide number 8, you'll see that the agency has done extremely well as far as getting their assets to increase. It was only that the COVID period that really brought us down, and you'll notice that we were at 76% funded in 2014, but every biennium thereafter we kept increasing 80%, 83%, 83, 84, and then COVID knocked us back down to 76. So we really need to start funding back up to get to that 100% at some point in time.
Thank you. Those are all the questions.
Thank you, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Thank you.
The chair calls John Posey, analyst with the Legislative Budget Board.